crawling again, crushing my brain with the candlelight. Losing my breath, losing myself, dreams are out of sight. Stop struggling against my demons. Stop thinking life as fiction. Eddie, burn, burn, burn. Burn the pain, burn the lies, burn the fear inside myself. And burn it all again. It's the right time to escape this cage I've been locked in for so long. It's not where I belong. Let it burn, burn, burn into the ground.
Hey everyone, welcome to Burn After Reading Live. I'm your host, Rick Mullin, and today we're catching up on day 13 and 14 of Richard Allen's trial. Later, I'll share some interesting insights and maybe even rant a bit. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the live chat. Do you think Richard Allen is innocent or guilty of Abin Williams and Liberty German's murders? While I see compelling evidence of guilt, I also understand potential reasonable doubt. My insights are merely opinions. The jury's verdict is truly what matters, as they've witnessed the evidence and testimony firsthand. And even keep in mind, they're seeing things even those, taking up chairs in the courtroom are not seeing, such as some of the videos of Richard Allen in his cell. They're seeing things that other people are not. So I'm going to share Fox 59's accounts on things that are going on. And last time that I did this, I was having issues with their website because they got all of these ads. And for whatever reason, anytime I try to scroll up and down, it wasn't working. But now I found another solution so people can follow along other than just hearing my words. And it's an online notepad. So I'm going to go ahead and share that, and hopefully you could see it, and we'll go ahead and get going. So day 13 testimony, Friday, November 1st. The Delphi murders trials has shifted to the defense of Richard Allen as his attorneys work to poke holes in the state's theories in hopes of exonerating their client. The state spent 12 days trying to convince the jury that Allen is Bridge Guy, the brutal killer responsible for the girls' deaths. It's called its final witness on Thursday before resting its case. And I don't know about any of you, but I was pretty surprised they rested that early. Am I alone? Share your thoughts. The defense introduced a pair of witnesses before court adjourned. Both discuss strange men they saw near the Monon High Bridge on the day of the murders. Day 13 of testimony marked the first full day for the defense as it tries to convince the jury that Allen is an innocent man. And Hammond investigator testifies. The defense's third witness was Christopher Goody, who's been with the Hammond Police Department since 2005 and has done some work on the Delphi murders investigation. Goody said that he was assigned to an FBI task force in 2014. As work on the Delphi case mostly consisted of interviews, he said he was assigned to the case for a little more than 2 weeks. The defense brought him to the stand to discuss Brad Weber, who testified on day 11 of the case. He owns property across from the murder scene and testified that he was driving on an access road around 2:30 p.m. on the day of the murders. During Allen's key confession, he said a van spooked him, leading him to order the girls across Deer Creek and killed them. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger asked Goody if Weber went straight home from work that day, and Goody said he didn't know. Auger showed him a report from February 19th, 2017 to refresh his memory. He'd spoken to Weber on that day. However, he couldn't say if Weber told him he went straight home after work. The timeline is especially important for the state's theory on how and when the murders played out. And they went into Allen's mental health in focus. Once Goody was finished, Dr. Deanna Dwanger took the stand. She served as the Director of Behavioral Health for the Indiana Department of Corrections since 2021 and said she was familiar with Allen. He worked closely with Dr. Monica Walla's supervisor, and Walla is the clinical psychologist who treated Allen at Westville Correctional Facility and testified about his detailed confession. The defense noted that Walla was a true crime fan who had been deeply interested in the Delphi murders case. And despite whether or not we find Allen's confession to be true or not, that woman should never work in psychology again. I think she's very unethical. But, anyways, by Dwanger's account, Walla informed her she had a special interest in the case in early 2023 after Allen was assigned to her and even recommended some true crime podcasts for her. Dwanger testified she thought it was unusual for Walla to visit a crime scene related to someone she was working with. It was revealed in court earlier this week that Walla traveled to the area near the Monon High Bridge, where the girls were found dead. Dwanger said the visit happened before Walla treated Allen. And solitary confinement and mental health. Dwanger said that she didn't know why Allen was placed in solitary confinement and told the court she had concerns about the constant video surveillance of him in prison. She recommended that cameras be removed, although that didn't happen. And could you imagine if they did? How much the defense would have played into that? Oh, they were really getting it once the cameras were off him, right? So she doesn't understand. Okay. She also said that she was told that other inmates regularly threatened Allen. She didn't hear any of those threats herself. Okay, secondhand information. Dwanger said solitary confinement is not good for someone's mental health, adding that the longer someone is held in solitary, the worse their mental health can get. She said it was DOC policy that someone with serious mental illness, also known as SMI, shouldn't be in solitary for more than 30 days. Dwanger said Allen was SMI and gravely disabled, and told the court that long-term segregation can be harmful for a person's mental state. Yeah, you know what also can be more harmful? Putting him in general population to the people who are threatening to murder him. Anyways, I digress. Someone in restrictive housing, such as Allen, gets more monitoring than treatment, although they would still receive treatment. He agreed it was not a therapeutic setting and could be toxic to the welfare of someone with mental health issues. There are policies to make sure someone with SMI doesn't continue to decompensate. I can't say decompensate. I cannot say that word. I don't know why. Compensate. I could say that. Decompensate. There we go. I did it, everyone. Yay. Dwanger said, but none of those policies were used for Allen. During cross-examination from Deputy Prosecutor Stacy Diener, Dwanger said Allen wasn't diagnosed as SMI until April 2023. Walla advocated for a family visit. By Dwanger's recollection, Walla believed Allen was feigning symptoms. She asked a psychiatrist to see Allen. They discussed involuntary medicine because his symptoms were getting worse and he wasn't sleeping. Haldol, a antipsychotic medication, was administered to help with his psychosis. The defense attempted to ask about legal action involving the DOC in 2012. That led to an objection from the state, which Special Judge Fran Gall sustained. It was one of multiple sidebars and objections during Dwanger's testimony. And the jury had some interesting questions. Jury had several questions for Dwanger. One, jury asked if detainees under a safekeeping order are kept in the general population. Dwanger said that they were. So right there, can you imagine if they put Richard Allen in Gen Pop and something happened? Oh, they did that because they wanted him to die. They wanted someone to kill him so they didn't have to worry about it. That's what they would have said. Another asked if it was possible Allen was faking symptoms to keep away from general population. Dwanger answered it was possible, but couldn't say for sure. Another juror asked if Dwanger heard threats directed at Allen, and she said no. A fourth question asked if it was possible for a person to slip truths into confessions, regardless of whether or not they were faking symptoms. Dwenger said that it was hard to tell, but she's seen it both ways. That's important. That right there, I was really surprised about. Because if Dwenger said it can go both ways, is it possible? Is it possible that Richard Allen could not be faking psychosis and still telling the truth? Could that be possible? I mean, Dwenger said it can go both ways. And Dwenger answered a jury question about the process for a person with SMI who's under a safekeeping order and said the procedure was the same as it was for the general population. The final jury question asked what the DOC's primary responsibility was for a safekeeper with SMI. Dwenger said safety was the primary concern. So, based on that alone, okay, it would not have been safe for Richard Allen to go into Gen Pop. So, safekeeping, keeping him in solitary confinement was paramount. And keep in mind, he had tablets, he had other things, so he can call his wife, he can call other people. So it wasn't like he couldn't have communication with anyone. And my understanding too is that there are times where he can get out of that cell as well. He can also play games and other things. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on. Objections, sidebars over video. When court returned after mid-morning break, the prosecution and defense sparred over videos of Allen in his cell and how much would be shown. That led to another break in the proceedings. It appeared Gold decided to allow videos to be placed without audio. The debate wasn't finished there, however. The defense said it couldn't say for sure when the videos were from because of the way they were labeled in discovery. That's sloppy. Or intentional. Gold said they can't use the videos if they can't verify the dates. The defense will do some additional research and try to show them later. Allen's team will call additional witnesses after lunch. And much of Friday's proceedings have been taken up by the prosecution's objections and multiple sidebars involving counsel and the judge. I'm sure the jury loved that. Media poll notes indicate there were only about 73 minutes of morning testimony due to sidebars and breaks. I mean, sometimes, those things are necessary, but I would still think that would be incredibly boring. So I'm going to take a break right there, see what we got going on in the comments. Brad, same time, same gun. So you think he might be a suspect? That's your opinion, if I'm understanding right. Thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you for doing that and saying that. All right, CJK. Allen was taking Prozac prior to his arrest. Maybe the jurors should be made aware of this. Dude was crazy long before being put in the pokey. And you know what? That's a very interesting point, and something I'm going to share after I read all of Fox 59's coverage of the 2 days that we're covering. I'm going to read another YouTuber's community notes that I think actually was very well said. I thought at least it's food for thought. So that's a great point. The way you imagine and describe solitary sounds like summer camp. No, it's not that. Look, being in prison one way or the other is not fun, right? It's not fun. But you are detained, period. And so it wouldn't be fun, I would imagine, for Richard Allen to be in Gen Pop to where he can get seriously fucked up or killed. I mean, threats were being made, right? So if Richard Allen thought that just being told that he was going to get killed was scary, imagine if they actually put him into the same areas where the people were saying it to him. That would be scary. It drives me crazy the way they say solitary. It was for his own safety. Child killers don't do well in prison. For some, yeah, I agree with that. The pic that the defense daddy showed of the cell, miscellaneous, I've read it was being repaired and no one was in it. If true, the warden should clear it up. And that's fair as well. All right, so we're all caught up. I'm going to move along here. All right, so an out of place car. So Brad Heath was the first witness called after lunch on Friday. He lives just outside Delphi and drove to Anderson's grain elevator while working on February 13th, 2017. He said that he drove past the old CPS building near the Monon High Bridge trails at around 8:45 a.m. and spotted a parked vehicle about halfway down the road. When he drove past later at 1:42 p.m., he said the vehicle was still there. He described it as an older vehicle, that it was faded, dark blue. He estimated the vehicle was at, 80s or early 90s model. Just looked out of place, he said. He told police about the vehicle 1 week after the girls died and spoke to law enforcement several times over the course of the investigation. When asked how far he was from the parked vehicle, Heath estimated about 150 to 200 feet. Heath said that he didn't notice if there were any other vehicles parked at the old CPS building. During cross examination, Heath clarified the old car he saw was not parked in the parking lot of the CPS building, but about halfway down the road near the building. Prosecutors have previously laid out testimony that included footage captured from the CPS building that they believe is Allen's 2016 Ford Focus SE, and a High Bridge photographer. So David McCain took the stand next and told jurors that he was out walking on the Monon High Bridge the day Abby and Libby vanished. McCain is 79 years old and lives north of Delphi. He said he was on the trails between 2 to 3 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. McCain was walking around with his camera and taking photographs. He recalled passing Cheyenne Mill, who spoke on day 12 of testimony about being on the bridge between 3 and 4 p.m. and seeing an old man with a camera around his neck. Okay. So McCain said that he parked at the Mears entrance and saw 2 or 3 vehicles parked there. He left around 4 p.m. and didn't see anyone on 300 North during previous testimony. Witnesses described seeing a man muddy and bloody walking on 300 North the day the girls vanished. He told jurors that during this time on the trails and the bridge he saw or heard, or I'm sorry, let me say that again. He told the jurors that during his time on the trails and the bridge, he never saw or heard anything unusual. McCain did reach out to the sheriff's department after hearing of the girls' deaths. FBI agents spoke to him less than a week later. McCain gave the photographs he took to police. He said he'd been interviewed several times over the years, including being asked about capturing any cars in the background of his photos. And former fire chief takes part in nighttime search. So, Delphi native Daryl Sterrett told jurors about taking part in the nighttime search for the missing girls. Sterrett has served on the Delphi Fire Department for 36 years, including a stint recently as a fire chief. Sterrett told the jurors about how he helped organize the hasty search on the night of February 13th, 2017. Sterrett said that he wanted boots on the ground quickly. My thoughts was that they were hunkered down, cold and scared, waiting for us to find them, Sterrett said. The search party consisted of 5 or 6 people and began around 9:30 or 10 p.m. Former Delphi Police Chief Steve Mullin and former Carroll County Sheriff Toby Leazenby directed the search. Sterrett said that he drove his own personal vehicle and parked on Teresa. Is it Lebert or is it really Lebert? I'm going to go with the French pronunciation, Lebert. Lebert's property on 625 West. He walked down a private drive toward the Monon High Bridge. The search lasted until 2:30 a.m. and didn't find the girls or any signs of them. Sterrett said that his party searched in the general area of the High Bridge. He thinks they briefly searched the east side of the bridge along with north and south of the creek. Police and family members were also searching during this time frame, and Sterrett recalled seeing flashlights across the creek as people searched for the girls. He said it was very dark during the search. Did you check the creek? Somebody may have, he said. After checking the deposition, Sterrett recalled that people did shine their lights into the creek and didn't see any clothes. And just so you know, I don't think that would be abnormal for people to miss. It was fucking dark. And so it's not like it was lit up with this great illumination. You only had pockets of light, right? And it depended on what you were shining it on. And Sterrett clarified that a hasty search meant to quickly cover a lot of ground. When asked if he searched the area southeast of the cemetery, Sterrett said that he didn't personally search in that area. The girls' bodies were found southeast of the cemetery along Deer Creek on February 14th. It was noted that during Sterrett's testimony, he couldn't recall details of the search or the night and had to reference his deposition. And we'll move along here in just a moment. Let me see if we got anything else going on. So, no other comments yet. But of course, guys, always share your share what you're thinking here. All right. Oh, okay. So we do have some notes here. All right. So this is interesting. So I've never been arrested, but for me, I'd much rather be in solitary versus a cell with another for safety. But also remember, Alan had a tablet and a Wi-Fi, could use it whenever he wanted. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I would want the same thing, because also I realize I am going to be jailed or imprisoned with some other people who are not good people, killers, rapists, what have you. Gang members. Depends on what the situation is. Violent offenders. People who wouldn't think twice of slicing your throat in there, because what are they going to do? They're in jail basically for life anyways. They're going to tack on more to their sentence, right? So anyways, let's move on. So Steve Mullin returns to stand. Former Delphi chief, I'm sorry, former Delphi police chief Steve Mullin was called once again to the witness stand as the defense team pushed on his previous testimony and attempted to poke holes in the prosecution's case. Mullin was questioned about the deleted interviews from the early days of the investigation, when an error caused the police station's DVR to record over numerous interviews conducted by police in the days after the girls vanished. And that's a fair point. That was still stupid, sloppy, and unforgivable of the police. They should have taken better care of that. Special Judge Fran Gall has previously ruled that these interviews were deleted due to human error, not in bad faith. And I do agree with that. I believe it was done because they were dummies, not because they were trying to cover anything up. And there was nothing I could do to recover the interviews, Mullin said. Dozens of interviews were lost, according to Mullin's testimony, though some video was recovered, but without audio. Well, that's not very fucking helpful. Mullin agreed with attorneys that an interview without audio wouldn't be very helpful, and they already basically repeated what I just thought. So next, the defense pressed Mullin about Brad Weber's interview. Weber provided a potentially damning piece of information in his testimony when he told jurors that he returned home from work at around 2:30 p.m. on February 13th, 2017 in a white van. This testimony could add credence to a prison confession made by Allen, where he told a psychologist that he led Abby and Libby down a hill to rape them before he was spooked by a passing van and decided to kill the girls. And Weber lives near the murder scene and traveled down an access road on 625 North that sees little traffic. And so people always ask, well, if he was spooked, why did he stay a while after he crossed the creek? And really what I'm getting from that, and I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, he was initially spooked to be on that side of the creek. And so he passed where he felt maybe he had more concealment. So he wasn't, at this point, we don't really know, other than the fact that he killed them, what kind of perverse things that he did. I mean, come on. The girls' clothes at least at one point were off. One was redressed and stuff. You have that. And so we don't know if whatever he was doing, he was getting his rocks off, but was throwing his DNA somewhere else. I mean, I don't mean to be gross about it, but we really don't know what he decided to do. Maybe he decided it wouldn't be a smart idea for any of his DNA to be on them, so to speak. And so, BTK, one of the things that he would do is that he would put his, so I know there was one about one family, and one thing he did to one of the younger girls downstairs, he did tie her up, but he didn't physically assault her, but he did do an act watching her. Um, so that is possible, and you're not necessarily going to find that DNA if you don't know exactly where to look and what he did to maybe even clean that up, even if he did it at all, or even if that happened at all. There's a lot of unknowns there. So a lot of conjecture, but it shows you the possibilities because he was lingering. Assuming it's Richard Allen, we're under that assumption. If this is going the way the prosecution is saying, then he's lingering. Or we could just say the killer was lingering. If you don't want to believe it's Allen, that's fine too. I'm just not going to go with that Odinist shit. It's bullshit. Or if you want to believe it's 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever, fine, but it's not Odinism. That's absolute bullshit. Anyways, let's move on. Next, the defense pressed Mullin about, okay, so we already talked about that. Testimony could add credence. Blah, blah, let's see. All right, so we already talked about that. The defense pushed on Weber's account, trying to discredit the testimony on day 11th. When Weber testified, the defense implied that Weber didn't drive straight home from work and instead stopped to work on ATMs or drop off a trailer. This would change his timeline and not put him at home at 2:30 p.m., around the time Libby's phone stopped moving at the murder scene. And if the state can offer anything that can add some reasonable doubt to Weber's testimony or even prove it flat out wrong, wow, that would be something if they can do that. That would be strong because now the van is a coincidence. The van is something that was talked about on Facebook or other social media groups and things like that. So that's something that I've heard. So anyways, Weber denied this, saying those events occurred at another time. Are you aware if Brad Weber has changed his story? Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asked Mullin. Yes, there is some conflict about it, Mullin answered. So that's interesting. Mullin said Weber has a side job working on ATMs, but did tell Mullin he drove straight home from work on February 13th. So there is that. Baldwin pointed out that Weber owned a 6-hour, the same type of gun that Allen owned, which prosecutors linked him to the murder. But during cross-examination, Mullin revealed that Weber's gun was collected and tested, but wasn't found to be a match for the unspent round found between the girls' bodies. The defense continued to lean on Mullin, asking him why sticks were placed on the girls' bodies. I don't know. I think that's a fair answer. He was asked when law enforcement learned the psychologist Allen spoke to in prison was a true crime fan who followed the Delphi case. He says, I don't know. He was asked if there was ever an Amber Alert for the girls. I don't remember. He was asked if Richard Allen was ever mentioned in the thousands of tips they received. No. He was asked how many times Allen confessed to the crimes before going to Westville prison. None. When asked about the search for the girls on February 13th, Mullin stated that he was not aware of any searches going within 100 yards, or sorry, Mullin stated he was not aware of any searchers going within 100 yards of where the girls were found on February 14th. Mullin affirmed that he believes Mullin affirmed that he believes one person committed this crime. How long have you thought that? He was asked. Since the arrest of Richard Allen, Mullin said. During Mullin's testimony, it was also revealed that there were trail cams in the area, but not pointed in the direction of the girls' bodies. Prosecution cross-examined Mullin. Not only did the police chief deny feeding Weber information about the van, but Mullin stated phone records backed up Weber's account of driving straight home after work. Very interesting. Mullin said Weber handed over his Sig Sauer, which was taken to the lab. It was determined that it was not the weapon connected to the bullet found at the scene, Mullin said. And we're going to be talking about the former sheriff who's going to take the stand here in a moment. look at that next. Let's see if we have any comments here. The tablet and Wi-Fi would be a huge perk. Is that available for everyone? No, and that will be answered. I always thought the family showed up questionably pretty damn fast. So I always thought the family showed up questionably pretty damn fast. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean? Questionably fast. What does that mean? Hi, Darkside. So I think there's evidence pointing to Richard Allen. I do believe that. However, based on how this trial has gone, I think I'm surprised that the prosecution hasn't presented more. I'm also surprised that they rested so quickly. They rested their case quickly, I mean. So I believe there is, despite what I think, despite how the jury might decide this, I would not be surprised if they see reasonable doubt. There's some things, some unanswered questions that we still have to see. For example, they have to put Weber back on the stand. He's been subpoenaed to come back. So we want to really find out is there any evidence that would possibly strongly suggest that Weber wasn't telling the truth of coming straight home when he said that he did, or if there's proof that he outright lied. That can change everything. But if there's no definitive proof on that, and the defense is just basically just pulling crap out of their ass, um, that I believe you really, I think Allen's testimony or his confession is very strong. I think it's very strong, and I think the jury will find it credible. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. The jury's there. I'm not. No, Ruth Ann, he had a couple of privileges. It's been said. I was shocked about a tablet and Wi-Fi, and so am I. Why are fucking? I mean, okay, maybe if you're not convicted yet, maybe I could see it. But can someone explain to me why other convicted people are getting these kind of privileges? You're you're in you're convicted for doing something horrible. No. Right, Burn, the poor little Ontario girls in BTK. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know if that's something that after he committed what he did, again, I don't want to talk. It's sick. It's disgusting. And if any family member ever watches this, I don't ever want them to think that I would speak of this lightly. Nor, that's not easy for them to listen to. So it's very hard. But I guess to put it in perspective, just because you may not commit a physical sexual act may not mean that a sexual act didn't take place in the mind of the perpetrator, if that makes sense. And that's something that BTK did, um, you know, in that family's home. No, Ruth Ann, there's a waiting list and for them, and Alan got two. He got two. Oh, just they really singled him out, didn't they? Favoritism, but not as a prisoner of war. Tips. I read he was tipped in, and we've now heard one tip, but I'm wondering if that lady really remembered it correctly. That's an interesting point. That was from the transcripts from the hearings held in July, August, Ruth Ann. Exactly, a tablet where they can figure out how to reach your victim or anyone is shocking. Give them a book, a color book, a point set, but you're being punished. Yeah, and a great example of anyone who knows Anthony Greeno, when he was in prison, he was able to use his tablets to threaten people. Used it to threaten his ex-girlfriend, saying he's going to basically commit a mass school shooting. I mean, why didn't they fucking take that away from him instantly? Well, welcome to Indiana, I guess. Pre-trial, he was held for 14 months in a prison with people who had already been convicted. Sounds unusual. Maybe not typical, but not unheard of. Tablets were monitored. That's true, as well as it should be. If the jury acquits him or it's a mistrial, I will be angry with the state, not them. Now, when you mean not them, what do you mean by them? I understand the state. Do you mean law enforcement, or are you talking about someone else, Cold? I'm curious. I must have missed something. It stands out to me too that Alan confesses to being a sex offender. Yeah, and also claiming that not only did he offend, I guess, molesting his sister, but also being, someone who was molested. And I don't know if that's his way of saying like, "Hey, look, this isn't my fault. This was done to me. I didn't ask to be this crazy. It was on me." And so, um, I think, I don't know, but I mean, of course, I wouldn't say that he wasn't. It's just, we have to kind of go with what he's saying. The vid changed things for jail prisons across the U.S. This included tablets and video visits. All right, so I'm going to get back to it here. So, former sheriff takes stand. Former Carroll County Sheriff Toby Leazenby took the stand after Mullin. He was sheriff from 2015 until 2022. Leazenby said he didn't play a huge role in the investigation. When asked how many people he thought were involved in the murders, he said that initially he didn't know, but after Allen's arrest, he believed it to be only one person. Which is interesting. When they say after his arrest, do they mean way after? Because it didn't sound that way on October 31st when McClellan was on that podium. It sounded like he thought maybe other people could have been either directly or indirectly involved. And it kind of seemed that way with Carter too. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, let me know. So I'd like to know, how far after did you believe that? So that's kind of interesting. See, again, guys, I try to be fair. I'm not where I'm just, oh, the prosecution can do nothing wrong. Law enforcement can do nothing wrong. Or and then the defense, boo, boo, defense, bad guys are only trying to get murderers free. No, they got their issues too. So I try to be fair. I try to see it the way that I see it, because this is confusing. And of course, I hopefully as this trial comes to an end and hopefully the right verdict is rendered, and however it goes and more information we have, perhaps, you know, I might be more lenient towards one way or the other, but I just have to have all the facts. But just I can only just react to what I'm reading and what I'm seeing. So, anyways, the defense presented a deposition from August 2023 where Leazenby referenced believing that multiple people could have been involved. You felt 10 months after his arrest that at least two people were involved, Baldwin pointed out. Leazenby pointed out that in the early days of the investigation, some of the investigators, including current Sheriff Tony Liggett, believed multiple suspects could be involved. And that was the impression that they were giving. Um, it was based upon the totality of the information provided to the investigators at the time period, Leazenby said. What? The totality of what? What totality of information is he referring to? I don't know. So during cross examination, prosecutors pointed out how Leazenby admitted to not knowing much about the investigation. The defense pointed out that he was sheriff at the time of the girls' murders. The jury asked Leazenby how many murders he had personally investigated. He said he hadn't personally investigated any. Testimony ended for the day after Leazenby stepped down from the stand. And so we have Goal who rules on some motions. So a few motions were discussed, including a motion asking FBI agent Adam Pohl to be able to remotely testify. Pohl wrote the report that included Weber's interview about driving home in his van on February 13th. Poe is unable to travel due to working in Texas, and the defense wanted to speak to him about Weber's account as they continue to looked to poke holes in his story. Gold denied the request to allow Pohl to remotely testify. And I think that's garbage. I think they should have let him. Why? I mean, I think as much information as we can get on the Weber accounts, the more that we should know one way or the other. Why would you not want that? Gold also denied yet another motion made by the defense that asked for them to present their alternative killing theory. The defense argued that some of the trial's testimony reopened the matter, while the prosecution countered by saying it was the defense who reintroduced the elements of their theory. And I do agree with that. I believe they should be able to present that. I think it's important to know that law enforcement, as you could see, that they thought that there was more than one person involved. And I think the Odinism theory is absolutely weak. I think it's something the state could, I would think, could easily debunk and disprove. And so why not do that? Why not make sure that we have beyond reasonable doubt on that? This whole it might confuse the jury. Well, if it's confusing, there's a good reason for it to be confusing. Maybe there might be some valid points there, but I don't think that there is. But they should have allowed it just to say, hey, especially when it comes to appeals and things and retrials, I think they should have done it. But again, that's my opinion. That's just a rambling man's that's a rambling man's opinion. And so before we move on to day 14 testimony, let's see what we got going on in the chat here. Going up here, let's see what we got. We got some things here. Geez, he's running all over Delphi with 3 other felons. You can look up how many pretrial detainees were held in state and federal prisons in Indiana on the Department of Corrections website. Excellent, excellent cold truths. Thank you for sharing that. Might be a simple question. Have you ever been in Ocean Park, Washington, Mr. Leazenby? An arrest starts an investigation anew. They still had to eliminate the possibility of other actors. Yeah, I felt like they just wanted to just say words. So let's use some interesting words. So why don't we just use tentacles? Oh, it's so complicated. It's so layered. Okay. Carter said tentacles. Yes, he did. And I'm curious what you guys think of some of the, I don't know if bravado would be the right word, but with Doug Carter, like, especially when they introduced the second sketch, the portrait sketch of the suspect, and he really went up there and it was like it's just about power to you, and you might be in this room and we know who you are, but you don't know we know who you are, but one day you're going to find out everything. I almost kind of thought like this is like theatrics. This is theatrics. Like a guy who's trying to come up like it's like we're going to fight, this is going to be, we're going to get our justice. Like it was almost like a Batman rant. All right. At one point, will the defense be presenting Richard Allen's alibi or reasons on the day of the murders? Richard Allen could not have committed the murders. That's interesting. They should. I don't think he has an alibi. I don't think he does. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the defense brings up. But I think that's one of the issues. Is like there's no credible alibi. Now, just because you don't have an alibi doesn't automatically mean that you did it. Like for example, I live alone. I live happily alone. I do things. So say like if I'm just hanging out at my house for a few days and something comes up and it's like, well, can anyone vouch for you? Not necessarily anyone can vouch for me. They might be able to look at my communications, my, you know, geolocations, things like that with my phone. I don't know, like with these new cars today, if they could see if you went out and you went somewhere. I know some of these cars are real high tech gadgets now versus maybe even in 2017, right? So maybe those things, maybe if I was streaming something on my device. So if I said, yeah, well, I was watching YouTube and I was watching Netflix, I was watching Hulu. And if they can verify with those accounts that I was watching it on my IP address and I could say exactly what I was watching, even they go like, well, maybe someone else was at your house and watching those things as you were doing that. It's like, well, unlikely, unlikely. So I don't know. Maybe they can do that. Right, JCK. My understanding is that he has no alibi. Um, he has to. He was admitted being there at the time. He kind of changed it later to try to get himself out of it. It would seem, although some people would say that was just a faulty memory, and I can't completely dispute that. I just find it unlikely. Allen buried himself with detail and confession. Now, if they could prove exactly at the time he was confessing to Walla, and he did have discovery in his cell and all that at that time, other than the van situation, there is that part that is it's murky. That's why the van information is so vital. It is so important. It's more important, especially with how weak I consider the state's evidence to be. Again, I believe there is strong circumstantial evidence to point to Richard Allen. I do believe that. I believe whether he's found guilty or not, I believe he's bridge guy. But you still have to prove that beyond reasonable doubt. Again, I could think something, but you know, uh, there's some questionable things. And if this Weber thing, as we go on to the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all that stuff, um, and if there is stuff to show some questionable doubt with Weber's testimony, that's going to be hurtful to the state. The state needs that to be credible. They need it. They need it for the jury to look and say, we think that these confessions are credible. The general ones, the particular one that he told Walla, and all the other stuff, he was just feigning and faking and all this other stuff. Like, to me, the van is the glue that holds everything together, in my opinion. And the timeline. I think some of the things with the timeline, even if you can't put Bridge Guy as the face of Richard Allen, when we take what Richard Allen says and we take what the other witnesses say, and we start to get that timeline, and as things start to come about, I think it could be inferred that Richard Allen is bridge guy, because they didn't infer that it was anyone else either. So it's a faceless man. That's the way we can look at it, a faceless man. And we have faulty people with faulty memories with faces, but what were they wearing? So we have to look at that too. In my opinion, by saying that he was sexually assaulted too, he's using it as an excuse to continue abuse. I correct. He's using it as in, look, this was done to me. I can't help it. I'm a sex addict, and I don't believe in this sex addiction bullshit. I do not. That is an excuse. Ken Krantz, the state prosecutor in Stephen Avery and Brandon Dassey's case. And again, for the record, I believe Stephen Avery and Dassey are guilty. But Ken Krantz is an asshole. And we all kind of know what happened. He was using his state prosecution power to hold sexual sway over another woman on a different case. He got busted. He got caught. Oh, later, I was a sex addict. No, you were just a fucking pervert over, with a power trip. That's what you were. That's what you were. And again, it shows two things can be true. The state prosecutor could be an asshole, and someone can be guilty. They're completely different things. We have to look at everything in the scope of what it is. But anyways, she's an excuse to continue to abuse, often, not always. If you were sexually assaulted, you will be you will sexual assault too. Makes sense. My daughter works with SOs, and sometimes there's a pattern, and there is a pattern, and it does suck. But we also have to understand that there's a lot of people who get sexually assaulted who will not sexually assault other people. There's that as well. Sometimes there are just victims. And some of those victims do not always become perpetrators, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they do, for whatever reason that may be. Because the rules of evidence say that the defense can blame you or anyone else without a nexus. There isn't one. Hmm, very true. I truly believe that if the Odinism theory was allowed, it would have worked against the defense. I think so. I agree. I agree with that cold truth. Phil agrees with you too. Yeah, eh, you might be right. I don't know it for a fact though, but maybe. I don't know. CJK, what did I do to make you laugh? I was going down there, so I'm sure I said something. Sure, I said something. I'm sure I did say something funny. It's so weird that there's no connection with so many things in common. Elaborate more on that, Ruth. Ruth Ann, I'm curious. Yeah, I guess it depends which account you want to go with. Whether you want to go with the 2017 when he was said he was there from 1:30 to 3 to 3:30, or whether we want to go with he was there at like 12:30, and he left by what about 1:30, maybe before 1:30, and that was in 2022 when they interviewed him again. So I guess it depends what we know that he was there regardless. Now it's comes down to what times he was there. I tend to go with his first account because it's fresher. It was a few days after then versus 2022. And the 2022, again, there's two ways to look at that. If we want to look at him as, you know, guilty of this, we can look at it as he's trying to distance himself from the crime. Or if we want to look at it as he's innocent, we can look at it as in, hey, people have faulty memories. You're asking him to remember something from, 5 years ago, right? So those are the two ways you can look at it. Third party should be allowed simply on the way Allen was charged in 2022 and in January 2024. And I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. See, I don't play this tribalism bullshit where just because if I think one thing, I'm just going to go pro prosecution and whatever they say and whatever they do, that's my team. Rah, rah, rah. Team guilt, Allen. And then you got these other people where they're just, their team defense, their team pro Richard Allison is innocent, rah, rah, rah. And we could still have this weird middle ground that we could say, you know what? I think Richard Allen is guilty. I think evidence points that he's guilty, but they just may not have enough to convict him. And then, of course, you had some people that would say, well, I believe he may be guilty, but I think his due process and his constitutional rights were violated. And so you have that little crowd too. So Hey, Lisa, welcome. Very sus. I agree with that. If they pulled my Google search, yikes! I have an extraordinary amount of knowledge on Jobin Ramsey. And hey, again, I don't mean to put this out here. Hey, guys, watch porn. Okay, they watch porn. Although I'm surprised with all of that, there wasn't any weird porn searches that I was aware of because that's what I thought. Like, he might be the kind of guy that watches pictures of like grown men in bibs and diapers, and like sexy women are like changing them, and maybe that's what he's into. And he's not. That's the kind of thing he didn't want people to see. But I think even like like it would have been different if it was like very like snuff type porn. If that kind of thing, it's like, ooh, that's questionable because it shows you he is into violence. And while that may not directly link him to the crime, it's a data point, right? So, but everyone has their hangups. I think as long as it's not dealing with children, animals, violence, or any kind of like weird bodily fluid such as pee and poop, I think you're good. You're okay. You're okay. Um, Without the van statement, he was golden. True, but he changed the time 3 times. Was it 3 times? You might be right on that. Well, unless you, are you considering the first time he did the interview, where first he said 1 to 3, and then he maybe said more, maybe it was closer to 1:30 to 3:30. That's why I usually say 1:30 to 3 to 3:30, and then of course then there was the, around like 12:30 to then he left there by like an hour later, about 1:30. So if was there something else that I missed that he changed the time again? I'd be curious about that. Yeah, I think the timeline is very compelling with the confessions, his statements of saying that he was there and passing the 3 or 4 girls, and then the 3 or 4 girls also saying that they saw him. And I think Gray Hughes investigates just a couple days ago put together a fantastic timeline. It is a fantastic timeline, and I wish I could show it to you here, but I don't want to do it. One, I don't want to get struck, and I don't want to disrespect him. But you need to go and check it. He had an excellent video of the timeline of everything, and it lines up. It's very good. Weber changed the time, but Allen puts him there. Hmm. That's something they really have to work out. All right, what else we got? Even or with eyewitnesses, confessions, and knowledge, only the killer would know. The white van sealed it for me. Let's also be fair that he didn't say it was a white van. He just said it was a van. Now that might be nitpicky, but yeah. Big baby. Hey Rick, burn after reading. Glad you're covering this. Always nice to hear your thoughts on things. Eh, Just a layman's opinion, Fig. I don't think I have any what I would call exceptional insight to the matter. However, I am going to, if it's okay with you, I am going to share your community comment that you wrote yesterday because I thought it was brilliantly said and I thought it was amazing. So I hope you're okay with that. I'm going to do that at the end of the show. Rick changed his alibi. That is huge. Rick also ditched his phone for a reason, which is weird since he seemingly left it at home. So maybe he was searching some incriminating things from it. Very possible. Now we're getting some good activity here with the comments, guys. Thank you. Did the state present any corroborating evidence to back up Weber's testimony? Um, Now, as far as I know, they were able to corroborate when he clocked out of work, and then it could be reasonably assumed as far as an estimated of when he would arrive home. So, if we are to assume when he clocked out of work, giving him some time as far as getting into his van and then driving home and giving estimations, I think that's corroborating. But we have to see if there's anything that would go against his statement as far as whether he went and did, in fact, work on some ATMs or whether he did do something with a trailer or he did something else. That we'll have to find out. Otherwise, there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't be home around that time. Bless your heart, Ruth. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, here's the man. Cole, they showed Weber's time card, verified he got off at 2:02, showed it's about a 25-minute drive home from work. So the timing lines up with Rick's confession. Absolutely. You completely read my mind on that, Figs. Thank you. And of course, you explained it much better than me. I could see him being into pee and poop. In fact, the jury did. Sorry, not sorry. I think they possibly did see it. I wouldn't want to see it. My goodness. Plus the crowd post trial, that will be he's guilty, but the state didn't prove it. That could still happen. Yeah. All right, going down. What is the timeline on Allen's confession about the Stixon van to Walla and when the leaked images were disseminated to the public? I think he stayed at least about an hour after, if I'm not mistaken. But if Fig, if you're still on here and if you want to answer that, if you have a better answer to that, that would be good. Fig's the man, everyone. Fig, your comments yesterday help explain so much. Today's too. Thank you so much. Dude's invaluable. Prosecution describing circumstantial evidence with a melted snowman strongly indicate to me that the state's case is weak. Well, it's not the strongest. It's not as strong as I thought it would be. All right, so I'm going to get back to reading. So we're now on day 14 testimony, Saturday, November 2nd. So, video of Richard Allen during his time at Westville Correctional Facility left some jurors aghast and one defense attorney staring in horror. On day 14, jurors watched a series of camcorder videos showing Allen in custody at Westville Correctional Facility. The videos were not played for the courtroom at large, meaning neither reporters nor media pool notes can shed any light on their actual content. The videos were at the center of objections and sidebars during Friday's proceedings, with the state objecting to their admission. Special Judge Fran Gall allowed the defense to show them without audio. So if any of you were expecting to hear the song of "Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys," well, you're going to be disappointed. Anyways, Allen's defense team couldn't play them Friday, however, because they didn't know the exact dates of each clip. Goal said Allen's lawyers couldn't show the videos unless they could find the exact dates. The defense shelved the videos for Friday and vowed to do additional research. By Saturday, it appeared that the defense had figured things out, and Goal allowed the jury to watch the clips without audio. The prosecution objected to the showing of the rather explicit scenes, but Goal replied, "Obviously, the jury has to see this." The monitor displaying the videos was turned away from the gallery so that the jury could see it. The prosecution had to move in order to watch. Allen did not view the clips. The defense said that the videos were being played only for the jury out of respect for Allen and to show his mental deterioration while in custody. Some of the videos showed the defendant fully nude. They spanned from April 2023 through June 2023. Clips ranged from about 2 minutes to more than 50 minutes. Jurors react to the videos. So, since court observers were unable to watch the videos, media pool notes relied on reactions from the jury, defense lawyers, and prosecutor. So, we're going to be dealing with a lot of conjecture as far as what they were aghasting to, and what they were like shocked with, and all this other stuff. We can kind of we can assume what that would be, right? There was him singing and then doing a sexual act on himself. There was that, basically him putting on a show, eating and smearing his own fecal matter on himself. So we have that. We would assume that would be some like eye-opening type things that would, make you sick and would shock you, I suppose. Hearing about it's one thing, seeing it's a completely different thing, I would assume. So as the first video played, one juror was aghast. Jurors appeared tense but not appalled at the second video. During the third video, one juror was seen biting her lower lip. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger shook her head and looked away from the screen. During video 4, Carroll County prosecutor Mick McClellan stood by the jury box to watch. One of the jurors sighed while the video was ending. The jury took numerous notes during the fifth video. The poll report noted. There was no audio from any of the videos, meaning that the courtroom was relatively silent for this portion of the proceedings. The sixth video was just under 3 minutes. The seventh video spanned 26 minutes, but the defense attorney, Bradley Rosie, sped it up. During the eighth video, the pool reporter indicated one juror had a look of disgust while Auger looked horrified. During the ninth video, Allen's mother left the courtroom. It would be noted that his wife, Kathy Allen, wasn't present for any of this. I tell you, my heart does break for Richard Allen's mother. It does. It very sad, and maybe Kathy Allen too. Like, they didn't ask for this. I mean, guilty, innocent, whatever, doesn't matter. It's sad. And the 10th video was about an hour long. This one had an impact on McClellan, according to the pool notes, who appeared taken aback and was cringing at what he was seeing. Auger stood behind him, arms crossed and mouth open, staring in horror. After the jurors watched the videos, the court took a break. 5 more videos were shown in court after the break, with the flow interrupted by brief testimony from Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter. The next 5 videos spanned from May 13th, 2023 to June 20th, 2023. Most were relatively short, with limited reactions available in the media poll notes. The 15th and final video spanned 34 minutes. One juror's eyes widened rapidly in surprise at something that stunned her. The videos were finished by about 11:50 a.m. Court adjourned shortly after that, with the jury given time to visit with family and enjoy activities on Saturday afternoon and Sunday. Court will resume 9 a.m. on Monday, November 4th. And then we have some additional media poll notes. And before we get to that, I also heard, I think psychologists, I believe, I don't know if it was a psychiatrist or psychologist that's in the jury pool, was taking some interesting notes. So I'm really curious what their insight's going to be with that, because we actually do have someone then who understands some of the psychological issues that are going on. So let me scroll up. Let me see what we got here. All right. Not enough to get a 12-0 guilty verdict. Not yet, anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's still going on. The defense still has to present the rest of their case. I don't know if they'll take all of this week or if it will take a couple of days. But, we won't know what they do until they do it. We would just be guessing what they would do. Are we going to get a guilty verdict, a not guilty verdict, or are we going to get a mistrial, a hung jury? We don't know until it happens. Oh, I'm having fun. Come on. I'm having fun with that. And what's surprising is that, hey, we get some votes on that side, because there are some people who cannot stand the sound of my voice and think I suck. And that's fine. I like that. I have no problems with that whatsoever. I am fully secure in myself. Man, cold truth, I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with dates. I'm terrible with descriptions. It's got to be in front of my face in order for me to know. If I didn't have that stuff in front of me, I'd be and on and saying, hold on a second, let me look. And then, of course, when I'm trying to look, I'll never find it. Basically, anyone who dressed like BG admitted being there, was vaguely described by witnesses, and owned a .40 caliber Sig Sauer could be the accused. Not enough, in my opinion. I don't know how many people describe themselves dressed as a bridge guy that was there on site. We know that Ron Logan kind of dressed that way, but do we know of anyone else that was described dressed that way other than Richard Allen? And you might be right. I just don't recall. But I'm looking at the guy who said he was there around the time, and also passed the same 3 or 4 girls, and they testified to that too. And once we start looking at the timeline of that and other witnesses and what they saw, I think it's more likely that we're looking at Richard Allen than Ron Logan or some other person that's claiming to dress the same way. Agreed. Hey, Lisa and JCK. Prosecution gave that description to prospective jurors. How much circumstantial evidence needed for a conclusion? He admitted to being there. Yeah, I completely agree. It's not the strongest, but the question is, will it be enough? And there's a difference. For example, if we go into a courtroom and we got DNA on the guy and it can't be explained away by the defense, and we have video surveillance of the person following someone into the same area to where they were found to be murdered with that person's DNA, and then they confess to the crime, right? They confess to it, but say recanted, out of remorse, or not remorse, but yeah, I guess you could, not remorse, kind of like, well, buyer's remorse, so to speak, like, oh shit, why did I confess? That sort of thing. So that's really strong, right? Like that's damn, like it's almost ironclad. You would think it'd be ironclad. But then you have circumstantial evidence, totality of the evidence, to where you start to piece things together to where you can say it's no longer a coincidence. So in this case, we have a timeline. We have what Richard Allen said. We have what witnesses said. And even if they can't say that's Richard Allen's face, or say they're misremembering things, but they remember crossing a guy wearing the same clothing as Richard Allen described, and it happened around the same time to when Richard Allen said he was there and when the girls were leaving. And we have that. And then we go, and then I forget the other witness's name, but the one that said she was by like where Richard Allen was on platform one. And I think, what was it, a barricade or somewhere where she couldn't cross. She originally said that was about 50 feet away, but I think it was actually closer to 110, 100 feet away when she saw it. And so she kind of saw his face differently. I don't necessarily know how she could say that, like, she could really describe his face one way or the other, but what the girls said when they passed the guy and what she said and what they saw in the video, they believe that to be Bridge Guy. All right. And then we have what Richard Allen said. Okay. He passed those 3 or 4 girls. He walked on the platform. He was on platform one. He was looking at the fish, and then we know shortly after the one lady that was by the barricade, or, we're staring at Richard Allen on platform one as she was walking away. Guess who she saw then walking by them? Abby and Libby. So we start to look at that and we go, is that a coincidence? Who else then could that be? So we have to look at those things. So we have to assume at some point that Richard Allen did walk away from the platform. Maybe he sat at a bench. Maybe he went into the part of the woods. We don't know. Maybe he was just walking. And then when he saw Abby and Libby, he saw them. They did things. He starts to think, today's the day I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So we have that. Right. And now we have his confessions, and then he offers some interesting insights. And so we can argue whether or not, okay, did he have the discovery? Or did he not have the discovery of the time he was confessing to Monica Walla? Or did he even read it? So we have those questions. But the van's not in the discovery. So he mentions the van. And that's why the van is so important. That's why that's going to be the glue that ties everything together with the timeline and other things that Richard Allen said and the things that we know. And that's the totality of the evidence. And if the jury buys as far as the tool mark analysis with the unspent round, that's another data point. And so we know other people own a Sig Sauer, but we have a guy who we know owns one, and we have one that could, as far, let's just say hypothetically, the jury buys that story, that is those markings, whether you're firing it or whether you're ejecting, whatever you're doing, those are the markings. And so what are the odds then that bullet was there? So that's still evidence. Is it the strongest evidence? No, but it doesn't have to be. Is it enough? Is it enough for beyond reasonable doubt? And I always have this argument with people because they don't understand the difference between beyond all doubt and beyond reasonable doubt. Is it beyond reasonable doubt? Sorry, didn't mean to go on a tangent, but just figured I would explain that. So the videos were only from outside his cell when he was being transported. So no feces or singing. It was to show how he was treated while in there. Do we know that for sure? Was it something he was doing outside his cell? Or is it, as you would say, the way he was being treated? Oh, the dog collar, as I think Rosie said. I don't know because I didn't see the video, and quite frankly, neither did we. And if that information is getting outside from what the jury said, that's a problem. Even if he is guilty and if evidence has been tweaked, he has been severely abused. Explain how he was severely abused. I would like a detailed account of how he was abused. Jurors may wonder what the state was hiding or why some along the line may have played a bit dirty. I will say, if anyone says that the cops are a little inept, incompetent, biased, if the judge is biased, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. Do I believe that it's a conspiracy, a town conspiracy? I would need to see more evidence of that. I don't know if I would believe that. CJK, I think that this is the most incriminating thing they have. Plus, his attorney speaking on his behalf in their press release, which is problematic. Let's see what else we got. I will say this. Yeah, Ruth Ann. Orsphere, they're asking intelligent questions. Hopefully, they make the correct decision. I will say this is a very inquisitive jury. I'm very glad about that because we have to understand something. These jurors are people, are these Tom, Dick, and Harrys and Janes. They're right from the bus stop who don't know all of the technical stuff that's even being presented to them. I mean, some of it is very technical, and I don't care how they explain it. It could still, like, you're just like, because they get really technical, and you're just like, okay. And so now at this point, sometimes that can be a guessing game. Of course, we're never going to have professional jurors that understand things of psychology, forensics of tool marking analysis and ballistics, and things with DNA and the psychological and all that other stuff. These are laymen who are deciding that. The case has given me a weird feeling about the intricacies of what is having heart attack, or even if he had lunch with his mother instead of leaving and drinking his lunch. It is very sad. Thanks, Jill. We're all trying to figure things out together. This case has a lot of missteps, coincidences, and a lot of secrecy, so it's challenging. Absolutely. As a West Coast girl, I have no problem with the like, carry on. Groovy, freckled. Groovy. Hopefully people are basing that on assumption from the jury questions. I mean, just from what I understand, the jury questions do seem, like they're inquisitive from what I can guess, from what I see. I think we are all holding our breath, waiting to see if we are going to play the new Greeno song. Seriously, it made me pee a little. Stick around. I got some things to say about Mr. Anthony Greeno. By the way, anyone surprised that Anthony Greeno's cell phone didn't play an important, essential part of this case by the prosecution? How about Greeno saying that Richard Allen confessed to him? What did I guess I just didn't make it in discovery in time, I guess. Oops, right? Prove I'm a con man. Prove I'm a con man. Man, we've been fucking proving it from day one-ish. The confession is considered direct evidence. Richard Allen knew things only the killer would know. I don't see the jury saying Richard Allen is innocent when Richard Allen himself says he is guilty. I would be wrong, of course. Men or rural people in general are likely to dress like Bridge Guy. Okay, but again, how many people were described to dress like Bridge Guy within the hours of 1:30 to 3:30 on that on the bridge who also said they were there. How many other people, how many other witnesses do we have saying that? Yes, it's just like there are people that wear flannel shirts. I agree. There are people that like Carhartt. I agree. A lot of people wear blue jeans. I absolutely agree. But at that particular time, the same with the Ford Focus. I think it was a Ford Focus, right? It's like, okay, so we know that there could be we know his particular model was the only one that was registered in Delphi. We understand there were similar models as well and stuff, and that's fine. But how many? I think what did one show on the camera at like 127, I believe, going that way. Um, so again, we look at that and go, how many coincidences are we going to have there? Also, how many people were questioned that would own similar vehicles to Richard Allen was questioned to see if they passed along that way around that time. So we also have to look at it that way. Exactly. He's trying to confess. Let the man confess. His attorneys would rather free a child killer. Why? Nobody saw the girls step on the bridge and take away a leisurely walk across and taking pictures, nor bridge guy follow or whatever. Maybe 10 minutes or more when it's lots could have happened. Well, we do know that the one witness, again, who saw bridge guy, platform one, who also Richard said that he was at platform one looking at fishes. She leaves and she did see Abby and Libby. She crossed them as they were going. So where the fuck did you think they were going? And they took pictures. They took pictures on the Monon High Bridge. I must say, when the prosecution rested, I was very disappointed with the case they presented. I really expected more, and it seems like there's plenty of reasonable doubt. And I totally understand how you could see it that way. I do. I was surprised that they rested that quickly. And that's why I believe they possibly might have enough if there is nothing the defense can do to cause reasonable doubt to Weber's testimony and his accounts of that day. If there's nothing to prove that, if there's nothing to show that would be contradictory to what he said. So, like, say if he didn't arrive later till 6 o'clock and they can prove that, that would be something. Or if he actually was working on ATMs, and if he was, doing something with a trailer, and he went home way later, and stuff like that, that would be very damning. But if the defense can't have any reasonable, if they can't show reasonable doubt, or if they can't prove that, I think that's strong for the state, and I believe that could be strong enough for the jury to convict. But we don't know until it happens. Thank you. I'm bad with names. After Betsy Blair saw Bridge Guy when Abby and Libby, she walked to the Freedom Bridge and back to the mayor's lot. She saw no one else. Thank you. Thank you. I'm terrible with name. I kept saying the witness. It was, I believe it was Betsy Blair. Sure, a number of people could have been out of sight at the trails. Very true. That's why I stay away from noted trails. Too many opportunities for creeps to be lurking. But again, at that point, we're still dealing with assumptions with that. Hello. Oh, that's interesting. I believe the tool mark evidence, but I am a jeweler and a metalsmith, so that's interesting. Interesting perspective. Oh man. So there's a lot of comments here, which is good. Thank you guys so much. So I will share this one though. Greeno is a clown. Greeno and Snare are both clowns. Yes. Greeno is the biggest clown on earth. Fucking A. I'm surprised the defense hasn't brought up Greeno in court since he said openly over and over that he will kill RA, which is, Richard Allen. Yeah, he's first in the door. What the fuck? I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, you know me, Cold. I've really hammered that hard. I guess, you know, maybe the defense figured, you know what? They're fucking denying every other thing that we said. To even try to say that we'd want them out of the courtroom, they would probably just, overrule that and say no. But they should. But he's a clown. Sorry, not sorry, but the DNA being saved for technology to catch up is BS. Let's have a trial anyways. What? I get what you're saying. That is interesting, Freckled, and I'm wondering the same thing. I'm wondering if they're gonna get him in a gotcha game. Maybe not. We'll see. I mean, I can't until it happens. I can't even. I could say all I could say is that if they do this, if they're successful in this, or if they're not, then I can kind of point what direction it may go into. Weber's reaction on the stand in itself makes him look not credible, in my opinion. I hear the guy is just very temperamental to begin with. In one of Delphi After Dark's live streams, I saw a portion of it, and he talked about how he went on property and he actually had an encounter with Webb. Basically, Webb saying, "Hey, can I help you? Are you lost?" And I guess they had a little thing, some words, more words probably on Weber's part. But of course, Rick Snay, he tries to act like a badass, saying, "Oh, if he would have done this or I would have done that, you know me, guys, I would have went right up to him and I would have gave him a what for." So, but I didn't know if he had a gun, so I just basically backed off. No, you're just a fucking asshole. And also, I think enough people realize that that's fucking private property, regardless of who that belongs to. Why are you still fucking going on there? So, public service announcement: stop fucking going on that goddamn property, guys. For those who are, it's not yours. Stop taking risks with that. Show respect. It's not your fucking property. Get off it. The Captain Howdy. Hello, all. Well, hello, Captain. All right. So, yeah, Snay was trespassing. Fucking A, he was. And Greeno was doing it too. And other people were doing it. And I assume more people will do it. Guys, stay off. Yes, fewer than 10% of cases have unusable DNA. Enough with the DNA. Absolutely. This is something that absolutely drives me up the wall because we live in this CSI effect world where they watch something and they think that only DNA is the only way to convict someone. And that is absolutely not true. Sometimes, so what are we supposed to, if we don't have DNA, no one fucking committed the crime. We can't charge anyone. Oh, sorry, guys, it's over. No. If there is evidence, any other alternative evidence that would show someone committed the crime, you present that and you try to convict. So many mistakes have been made. If Rick Allen walks because of all this, I hope they have a recall election immediately in Carroll County or the DOJ starts paying attention to what is happening. I agree with that. I do. I do believe one thing. I do believe they rushed to arrest Richard Allen. I do believe that. I think they should have waited just a little bit because if we don't have the confessions, if we don't have that, and you're telling me what they had is what they were going to use to convict him, ooh. I do agree with that, SP74. It's just that that was said on the stand is what pissed me off. And I think that's fair, Cold. Like I said, I do not believe that the state has been perfect at all with this. But I think I've been very critical on both sides. At least not just because I'm pulling that out of my ass, but I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing as a layman, as just a casual observer, a spectator. So let's move on. So additional media poll notes. A few journalists were able to see some of the footage from 15 or 20 feet away as it was played on a laptop computer. Limited descriptions of the footage were available in additional media poll notes. The notations were disjointed, even that reporters saw the footage on a small screen from a distance away. The poll notes indicated that Allen was naked in 4 of the videos played in court Saturday in almost every clip. His arms and hands were restrained behind his back, and at least 2 guards are accompanying him. In some videos, he's in a cell. So we have videos of both. We have both videos of him outside his cell and videos of him inside the cell. So we got both. So it wasn't just one or the other. He's in a cell. In others, he's being walked down corridors. The final video showed him being transported to what appeared to be a different building. He was strapped into a wheelchair. The media poll notes indicated that Allen appeared subdued in the videos and did not seem to be resisting. In some videos, he had what appeared to be a cloth or black hood placed over his head. In other videos, corrections personnel carried him, and one appeared to show correction officers dragging him, probably because he was not cooperating. That's going to be my guess. Another clip showed Allen being cleaned and dried by officers. Look at that. He's basically being treated like he's in a spa. Oh, I'm going to get shit for saying that. Carter's testimony. Between video sessions, ISP Superintendent Doug Carter took the stand. Carter has been notably outspoken about the Delphi murders case and often appeared at press conferences to give updates on the investigation and the search for Bridge Guy. Carter told the court that dozens of agencies were involved in the investigation, including federal resources like the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Marshal Services, and ATF. He said the FBI was involved until 2021. This led to a sidebar involving Judge Gohl and counsel. Carter later testified that he made the decision for the FBI to leave the case and turn over all materials in 2021. He was on the stand for less than 10 minutes. Reaction from Libby German's family. The media poll notes indicated that Becky Patty, Libby German's grandmother, was upset while talking to McClellan before Saturday's proceedings began. Poll notes speculated that Patty may have been angry that video of Allen were withheld from the public, while graphic crime scene and autopsy photos of Libby and her friend Abby Williams were displayed in court earlier in the proceedings. At one point after Saturday's break, Patty left the courtroom and appeared very upset. She was later seen whispering to her husband. And that's really sad. And that really does, sometimes when you distance yourself, when you're covering this, it's easy, unfortunately, to forget how this truly affects the families, the victims' families, right? And I totally get where Becky Patty is coming from, especially if Richard Allen is the guilty party, and to say that we're going to give him dignity, and but not my granddaughter. She doesn't get any. But I mean, my understanding too was that they did try to cover certain things up, but still, it is a trial. I see exactly what she's saying. It's like, you didn't have just the jury look at those crime scene photos, right? You didn't tilt the television where only the jury could see those horrific pictures of Abby and Libby. But you're going to do that with Richard Allen, even if he's innocent. It's like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it with both. And honestly, I would have been okay with that if they would have done it with both, because I'm sure there's some sick bastards that really did want to see those fucking pictures. I believe that. Who wanted to sit there and see the dirty, nasty details of this case. I truly believe there were people who really wanted to see that wanted to see, the meat and potatoes of this thing. Not because they care or because they're investigators, but because they want to be there for the show. Not to be all high and mighty, not to a virtual signal, but So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Let me see what we got going on. All right. So in the OJ trial, they didn't even know that much about how to collect DNA. Yeah, that was really in its beginning. But man, they had so much evidence against OJ Simpson, and there's so much Monday morning quarterbacking that I can say about that. One, they should have never had that trial in Los Angeles because of what was going on during that time. Racial tensions were high, especially with the African American community and law enforcement and everything that was going on with Rodney King. Now, I had a discussion with Lisa O'Brien, who's brilliant, by the way, paralegal. We talk about the West Memphis 3 case. She's far more knowledgeable, smarter about it than I am. And we talked about it, and she disagreed. I think one of the things that she said was due to it wouldn't have been a large enough venue. And I believe and I could be remembering this incorrectly, but especially like for the media. And of course, as we see here with Delphi, it's like, no, at that point, we don't need every single media news outlet to cover this. We need a fair trial. We need the fairest trial possible, and that was not going to take place in Los Angeles. Also, the male prosecutor of that case, when you sit there and you look and you go, we don't want to convict this man or try this man. What? You should want anyone that you believe that you are trying in a court of law, and if you believe that is the murderer of two people, of course you should want to convict, because you want to convict the murderer, not sit there and plead like, oh, we don't want to convict OJ. It's OJ. Like, shut the fuck up. Really? That was weak. They very weak. Even if we were to believe that we could have an unbiased jury in the OJ Simpson case, or the OJ Simpson trial, boy, there were times where like the prosecution were acting like simps, so to speak, and being made to look like a fool by the judge. So I would be pissed if people were trespassing on my property, especially as many people that trespass on anyone's that had anything to do with this crime. Yeah. And you got people like Anthony Greeno and others that perpetuate that bullshit, make videos. I think anytime they show video of that, that should be a prosecutable offense. One, they got to take it off. Two, you get arrested. But I don't make the rules. I would imagine that the hammer would cause a mark, but dropping through the barrel with no force would not. Well, that's up to the jury to decide at this point. You could be right. It's up to the jury to decide based on the information that they have, or they watched, listened to, saw, all that stuff. A rush to judgment for political gain is what it looks like. If I was on the jury, I wouldn't be able to vote guilty with the case presented. I have to respect what you say. I mean, I assume that you've followed this very closely. You followed the day to day with it. And even though some of us haven't exactly seen every single thing that the jury has saw, we're still smart people, and we got, I got to believe that what is being reported to us is truthful and factual. And Freckled, if that's what you believe, I can't. It's reasonable. You're not coming out and not getting extreme with it. You're basing it on your honest analysis, your honest opinions on that. I saw OJ running from the cops on the 405 when I was in high school. Wow, talk about seeing something historic. And the jury didn't understand the lengthy DNA testimony, but they understand the glove fit, worst trial mistake of the century. Right, and that's the thing. We're dealing with, other than the fact that we were dealing with the biased jury. As a matter of fact, I believe one of the jurors, after it was all said and done, what did he do? He held up his fist in a Black Power salute to O.J. Simpson. That's one thing. And secondly, yes, we're expecting laymen to understand some very difficult technical stuff. That's not easy. It would be easier if someone actually understood what was being presented. And so now it's like it's almost a flip of the coin of what you're trying to understand. Here's your shit spot comment. Yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble for that. Yeah, this has been long and exhausting for the families. Very long and exhausting. And, we can do our best to show empathy, and we can do our best to try to imagine, but we can't even begin. Losing someone in itself, whether it's natural causes, what have you, a car accident, that is tough to lose someone you love so dear, like more than the world. And to lose that person, like that's something, but to lose them also in this kind of way, and to have to deal with a trial. And, at this point, we don't know what's going to happen in this trial until we know. That is, it's heavy. Finding the marks only after the round was fired implies the ejector does not make marks on unfired cartridges, that the cartridge has to be expanded through firing and may be softened, in my opinion. Well, and see, we could have people that can have their opinions, but guess whose opinions are going to matter the most? It's going to be the jurors, right? So let's see what the jurors decide. And who knows? Maybe the jurors' decisions may have nothing to do with the whole thing with the unspent round. That may have nothing. They might say, that's not what did it for us. We found that questionable. However, here's what we didn't find questionable. And they'll point to A, B, C, D, and all that other stuff. So we'll see. We will. Makes me mad. The jury needed to see the crime scene and the autopsies, not the whole courtroom. I agree with that too. If it was something, I guess, if the family needed to see it, even though they know that would be extremely difficult, but they needed to do it, I could understand that. But just the lemmings that decided to go in because they want to go ahead and provide coverage for their YouTube channels. And I'm not saying all of them are bad. Let me just say that right off the bat. But I think there's enough in there that's bad, that just want to cover the nasty, juicy details. Like that, they didn't need to see that. I think even some of the people in the town of Delphi didn't necessarily need to see that. Oh my God, the whole dignity thing upset me. I have a granddaughter about the age of the girl. She's so modest. Poor Abby and Libby would never have wanted it. No. I can't think of another trial I've watched where they didn't shield the sensitive photos. From my understanding, some of the best that they did was that they, had black splotches or whatever, or markings that covered certain areas. But that's still, I don't think they did that with all of them. But again, I wasn't there. I'm obsessed with the West Memphis 3 case. I know a thing or two about that case. If OJ was convicted, there would have been horrific riots. Yes, Rodney King was a couple years before, but tensions were still high. I don't think that the jury decided that if they were to convict that there would be riots. I think the jury was never going to convict OJ Simpson. Even that one guy that held up the black fist and stuff, that would have been a hung jury right there. So I think that's what if we would not have gotten a not guilty, we would have got a hung jury, even if there was some that was going to decide, to rule, give their verdict of guilty. Yes, SB 74. I've been to trials in person as well. Jury saw sensitive things, but not us in the courtroom. That's interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that, Mel. And I completely agree with that, where it's like the jury should be allowed to see it. We don't necessarily need to. OJ was 100% jury nullification, like OJ was ever part of any black community. And that, it's funny because guess who he hung out with even before all that? He had those cops that would come over and hang out. So this whole thing about the cops being racist towards him, man, they loved OJ. OJ, rich OJ coming over, you can have parties, have some fun and stuff. They didn't hate OJ. They didn't have it out for him. Do you usually follow cases with children? I heard Amy Mahalovic expecting break soon due to DNA. And you know what? Lisa, I'm very curious about that, the Amy Mahalovic case. It actually happened close to where I'm at. It happened, she was abducted in Bay Village. Bay Village is probably about, give or take, maybe half hour, 40 minutes away to where I live right now. It's a crazy case. I know they've talked about some potential breaking with that. I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but it would be great if they can they got a very strong suspect right now. They talked about a couple years ago, and whether this is the guy or not is yet to be. We'll see. But I guess his girlfriend, who the suspect's girlfriend at the time of these things were going on, relayed a tip. Now, is this a scorned lover, or is just a person really telling the truth and is shedding light? We don't know. I'd be very curious if whatever DNA is pointed to him or someone else, but we'll have to see that, because that could take still years and years before they're able to determine that DNA, if at all. Duty Ron did have an expert on his channel about the cartridge. That was compelling. Changed my mind. Tidbit. Recommend it. Yeah, there were some things too that I looked at that I found very compelling. That's why it's like, man, it's a lot of technical stuff, and it's going to come down to what the jury thinks on that, right or wrong. I think the Amy Mahalovic case is bogged down through there was hope from DNA, or they're keeping it quiet. Man, we'll have to see what happens with that. That little girl deserves justice. The mother, God bless her soul, she's gone from this world. She passed, battled alcohol addiction, and I don't say that in any form of disrespect. I'm sure that alcoholism played because of the turmoil that was going on of losing a daughter, and some people are trying to find a way to escape it because it's so horrible. I can never judge someone like that. Um, but the dad is still alive, and he deserves justice. He deserves resolution. I follow true crime in general. I don't know a lot about Amy Mahalovic. I'll look into it. Never want to see crime scene photos out of respect and modesty for Libby. And I'm sure you mean Abby too, still. See, we got some comments here. Let's see. Byrne, do you think Rick Allen has killed before, or do you think this was his first? I wouldn't be surprised if more was uncovered later. Either way, it's conjecture on my part. It would only be an opinion. If we are to trust with what Rick Allen said, it's definitely not his first time having um, sexual molestation motives. If he was doing something with his sister, we cannot say one way or the other if he did something to his daughter. I even hate bringing that up because if that never happened, that's such a horrific thing to even consider or think about. But you know, if we're to buy what some of the people who worked with Rick Allen at Walmart, there were some creepy moments there that I think there were some people that talked to the murder sheet. And I know the murder sheet isn't very well, they're popular, but the reputation isn't considered sterling, right? But if we're to believe any of the people that worked with him at Walmart, there was definitely some creepy little things, especially with two women who were lesbians. Um, there were some accounts there. In other heinous cases, those arrested have really nasty backgrounds. Internet searches alone will sicken normal people. Not so with Rick Allen. There's a reason. Okay, all right. How about the Golden State Killer, Joseph DeAngelo? How about BTK? How many arrests of nasty backgrounds did those two have before they were caught for the crimes that they committed? That is not always true. That is not always accurate. You see, everyone wants to go with these profiling games by the FBI or others of what are the odds or statistics or things like that. These are a mixed bag of nuts. We cannot say just because of that, then Richard Allen could not have committed the crime. You cannot use that as a criteria. You can have it both ways. Yes, you can have it where you do have someone with a background of arrests and things like that, and then you have other people who do not have that. So I would respectfully disagree. True, Burn, but that is the job of the state and the defense to provide. Did they? We shall see. Most probably glazed over when the scientist was talking about DNA, trillion to one and 2-digit ratios is a big deal. Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah. I was heavily invested with that, with the West Memphis Three. I have wondered if the Delphi offender believed if the girls were undressed, they would not try to flee. But at some point, a redressed herself, and they did try to flee. Don't know. I often wondered if, and again, I don't want to be explicit with this, if they were in the act of undressing before they crossed the creek, and that would also explain some things with the clothing being in the creek, the clothing, you know, Abby wearing Libby's clothes. But again, that's conjecture. But I often wondered, okay, even the spooking and all that other stuff, I don't know. But again, it's terrible to think about. It was about this case. Did you see it? What did you think? What do you think will happen with Richard Allen if he's found not guilty? I would have to believe he would have to leave the state of Indiana and maybe go somewhere that may be either a little more isolated or maybe, wouldn't really connect it. Because what's really weird is that the Delphi case isn't as nationally recognized as I thought it would be. There's a lot of people that don't know anything about that case. So, but it's tough to say. Um, does Richard Allen, does he have a case to sue Carroll County? I don't know. If Richard Allen is found not guilty, I'd guess he and his wife will find a corner of the world where no one has followed the case. It's funny you just mentioned the same thing that I did, and I agree with that. He has a heart condition, may not survive long. Yeah, he can't stay in Indiana, and he can't stay in Delphi. But wouldn't it be some shit if he did? I guess Rick Snay won't be able to play pool with Richard Allen on a regular basis. With both BTK and D'Angelo, once caught, people came forward describing past acts. BTK especially was brutal to animals. But they did not mention anything about killing and raping people, now did they? Being bad, as bad as it is to be bad to animals, that is not necessarily a condition. I mean, again, that's what he did, and basically he was they looked at him more as a power hungry asshole. But you know what? He was also considered very respected in the community. He was very active in his church, right? And with BTK, like once caught, people came forward. Well, who actually came forward outside of that? Yeah, there were some people that came out with certain things, but there was no indication that he was raping and murdering people, and we still don't know who may not come out with Richard Allen. So I'm just saying, like, you made the statement about arrest, right? He was and the worst thing that Joseph D'Angelo was arrested on was shoplifting. Shoplifting is a completely different thing compared to, you know, let's say abducting someone to rape them or murder and things like that, or assaulting, physical assault, any of those things. So, okay, so we're caught up um, with the comments, and now it's rant time. And I've noticed some YouTubers posing with Anthony Greeno, and I got to tell you, I'm very disappointed in their lack of conviction. You can't claim ignorance about Greeno's shady past, and he's consistently lied, claiming his phone would reveal crucial information in trial, unsubstantiated, providing conflicting alibis for the time of the murders. We'll get into that in a moment, too. Alleging Richard Allen confessed to him, and that was unmentioned in discovery or trial. And so I do want to watch a few samples, and I'm going to take them from Truth Be Told's YouTube. fantastic woman. If you haven't watched her stuff, you should. It's very enlightening in a whimsical, comical sort of way. So give me a moment. I'm going to pull that up. Don't mean there to be so much silence. I'll try to run my mouth a little bit just to keep things going here. So I'm going to pull up one, pull that up, pull up the other one. That way I can have them back to back. I got the timestamp saved, so I know exactly what I'm looking at here. So, all right, the first one I have at 9:46. All right. 9:46. All right. So now I'm going to share my screen. All right.
It is specific to
I was interviewed by the FBI because I was a suspect. I was a suspect in this damn case. Actually, they recorded the whole conversation. Look, you know what, man? This eventually, everybody, you guys will see. This will be released eventually, I'm sure. It's part of the investigative process, okay? My phone has something to do with this case.
No, it doesn't. So that's number one. So let me go ahead, remove that. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Let me get the timestamp on this one, 2:54. All right. Share my screen. Let's look into this, shall we?
I was in Delphi that day. And I was not there that day. I'm not a suspect. And I was right there at the same time. It was parked there. I was right. And I was at the police station in Lafayette during the time of the murders. How at 2:30, if I'm in Lafayette, am I going to be in Delphi committing a crime? If I'm thinking about the time frame that day. I went to Delphi at literally around 3 o'clock. Put me on a suspect list as number 3. Are you kidding me? When I wasn't even in Delphi at the time of the murders.
just for the curious minds. Were you around that area that day?
Yep. I was around that area that day. Not the high. And I told him I was in Lafayette. And around these times, I don't really know the trails. So look how close I was to what was going on. Isn't that? Asked me where I was that day, and I told him, and I said, "Well, I don't really know at first." And he's like, "Well, we need something better than that, dude, because it was a murder investigation, right?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I never thought about that until now, today of all days was the first day that I actually sat back and thought, man, dude, now that I know who it is, would I have been able to identify? Did I see that vehicle now? Did I see that dude? Is what
Anthony Greeno, always, injecting himself into something that he really has nothing to do with. And so I want to give full shout out to Truth Be Told. She compiled that together. So check out her channel. It's fucking awesome. So, do that little @ symbol, Truth Be Told _.39 or 397. It's right here. Just check it out, or just put in Truth Be Told Greeno. I'm sure you can find it that way. So wanted to share that, and thought that was important. And the reason why is, I guess this is the part where I might divide some people. Tom Webster and Kristen behind the crime door, they've taken photos with Greeno despite his questionable character. Now, Nancy Grace and Susan Hendricks might not know him, but Tom and Kristen should know enough to know about his character and all this stuff that's out there. And this lack of accountability raises questions about YouTubers' true intentions. Ignoring or humanizing Greeno's antics is troubling to me. I'd rather stand against wrongdoing than befriend it for convenience. You know where I stand, and I am not afraid to speak out. If standing up for what is right makes me unpopular, so be it. Call it whatever you want. Call it virtue signaling. Call it whatever. Call it bullshit. I don't care. I'll wear that label proudly. Losing followers or subscribers, supporters, whatever, for calling out more popular creators won't faze me one fucking bit, because integrity matters more than popularity. So I did want to vent on that a little bit because I see it and I just don't get it. I really don't. So let me go ahead, see what's going on here. Where did Greeno's boyfriend go? CJ, he actually did do a live stream. I believe it was a live stream with Greeno, I think last week or the week before. So he comes out of his hole every once in a while. I have a heart condition. Doc said I can't watch Greeno or Snay. I thought he told Kat he was out of town. I don't know. Maybe. But that's the thing. So when Greeno says, like, prove I'm a con man, prove I'm this, prove I'm that, just like how he told Can't Stop, Won't Stop, I think Lindsay Ann, if that's her name. I think, well, I don't know if I'm getting her name right, but Can't Stop, Won't Stop, gave him money to rent equipment, and he actually used it to buy it for himself, right? Does shady shit like that. Cold Truth can, if you know my channel, you most likely know Cold Truth already. She's covered Greeno extensively, exhaustively. I'm sure she sure as fuck didn't do it for fun. Although sometimes, we have our moments. So when he sits there and he says things like that, like, the cops tried to pin it on me, but I was in Lafayette, or I was there. I was there around the time it was going on. I was driving by. I was driving past. All of that is attention-seeking bullshit. Just like when he goes, my phone has something to do with this case. You're all going to find out in trial. Isn't it interesting that I guess the state just said, it's not important. I'm sure he'll come up with something, some kind of bullshit to pull out of his ass and say, oh, well, this is why they didn't, this is why they didn't do it. And clearly, if it was so fucking important compared to what the state has presented already, I would think they would at least try, right? And they have not. And then, of course, this bullshit of, in my docuseries, I'm going to provide where Richard Allen confessed to me the crimes and confessed, that he murdered the girls and gave very descriptive reasons to what was going on. And I gave him the book, The Shaft. The Shack, sorry, not the Shaft, the Shack. And, and just, I feel bad for him. But if the jury gets it wrong, I'm going to make sure that he's fucking dead, and his attorneys too. So, and that's what gets me, is that kind of behavior. It's one thing if you don't want to do videos calling him out. I'm not going to go after YouTubers that don't want to do that. If that's not their style, so be it. Okay. But to sit there and to take pictures with him, chummy up with him, and you don't necessarily, if he comes by you don't have to necessarily give him the middle finger. You could just simply walk away. You have every fucking right to do that, to walk away and just say, like, no, I'm not talking to you, dude. Sorry. Like, I don't want no trouble, but I'm not talking to you, but we can coexist here peacefully. I mean, that can be done. Sounded like if one wanted a seat in the courtroom, they had to sleep with Greeno on the cement steps of the courthouse. Like, he's like fucking Gollum in Lord of the Rings, and like, this thing is his precious, but not in the healthy way. Oh my God, what a liar. I can't stand him. So when he sits there and goes, prove it, motherfucker, we've been proving it. Everyone's been proving it. I mean, do we all got to fucking get together and fucking write a book? Well, no one's going to read anyways. Do we need to make our own docu-series? I mean, really? Like, it's well documented, but I wanted to give the latest examples. And the most disgusting thing that he tries to lure his audience with, oh, I'm so important. Look how important I am. One, this case is mine. I was there from day one. I am Delphi. No, you were from Lafayette. But no, but he wants to say he's from Delphi. And then says, my phone plays a crucial part in this case. It's very important. Of course, we find out that's jack shit, right? It's bullshit. And if Richard Allen was confessing to Anthony Greeno to a tablet or whatever, I would have to believe that would have been presented, and it wasn't, especially if it's so fucking clear. So you were so close, the police said. Your phone pinged in the woods, but in the trail, limbo, remember? Sorry about the heart condition, but wow, is that what I said? That there should have been violence? That there should have been assault put on him? No, I think I laid it out pretty clearly. But again, I'll try to do it again, and I'll try to use smaller words. When you're dealing with someone who is a bad actor, you shouldn't engage with them. I never said anything that you should put up your dukes and you guys should fight like it's Mortal Kombat. What you should do with people like that, and I'll say it slow so that the words don't mesh together, do not engage with bad actors. Do not engage with bad actors. Ignore them. Stay away from them. You see, it's simple. If I'm in line at the grocery store and I know there's a known pedophile or rapist, some kind of sex offender, because I got a card in the mail saying that someone lives in that proximity of my neighborhood, I don't have to take pictures with him, do I? If I am in line at the grocery store? No. Do I have to kick his ass because he is a child molester or a rapist or what have you? No. I could be a law-abiding citizen and I can just ignore him. That's what I can do. So let's not overreact with that, shall we? Or let's not make arguments that were never made. I will never look at Tom the same way again. Not that I liked him, but still. Can someone tell me why Greeno said that he was so close to the crime scene that his phone pinged in the woods? Because he wants to be involved in this case. He wants to inject himself. That's what he wants to do. Yeah, you do that, Daisy. Take your little simping ass right over there. I have no problem with that. Hey, that whole thing with CJ, I can't make heads or tails of it. That poor girl, that's up to her what she wants to do. I just hate to see people follow a cycle because they think that they can't get out of it and they get manipulated, and there is those type of things. That sucks. But I hope, and sometimes it is not that easy because of what a person might do. Sometimes it's not so easy. Well, at least we all agree about Greeno. Yeah, we do. What sucks, I knew it was a calculated risk, is that I don't feel I can go to this trial because he's there. he will confront me and make it a spectacle that Abby and Libby's family don't deserve. And you know what? And that's absolute bullshit that that's not something that you can do because of him. You know, you should be able to be there. And while he may be there, and there's one, he shouldn't, because he threatened to murder Richard Allen and his attorneys, especially if it didn't go their way. You know, with all this caution, right? All this caution that Judge Gall said that, you know, she wants, you would just think, even if you think this dude is a clown and is just talking out of his ass, and most likely that's what he's doing, you would still say better safe than sorry. Like, you know, it's just like how you can't say what bomb on a plane. You know, you shouldn't say that, or joke about terrorism and things like that. You know, you act like it. Basically, if you play stupid games, you should win stupid prizes. In this case, because Anthony Greeno said those things, he should have won a stupid prize, and his prize should have been an all expense paid trip of not being in the fucking courtroom. That's what it should have been. But nope. And the fact that the you know, the sheriff's department don't give a shit, police PD don't give a shit, you know, and the fact that, you know, he pulled his little stunt with his child support to where there's supposed to be a hearing, I believe, what was it, on the 22nd, 23rd of November. He will most likely be long gone unless he, you know, extends whatever with that. But I believe he'll be long gone with that, because he ain't fucking paying that shit. I'll tell you that right now. It's another thing he lied about. He said the kid wasn't his. Yes, it is. The DNA confirmed that it was. And I saw, you know, I've seen pictures of the kid. He is a fucking dead ringer to Anthony Greeno. That poor kid. You know, but I'm sure the kid will grow up to be a better man than Anthony. It is good that he's not in his life, but still, Anthony should have to provide for that kid. You do these things, you know, you pay. You know, it's a responsibility. Check this out. Cold truth. Someday I will be able to tell you how much good you have done in my you know, in my personal life. That's awesome. Are you referring to Greeno? Because I think whatever the case they're trying to build, he'll be gone by then, and that arrest warrant won't be extraditable. So if they're building a case, I better move it fucking fast, and it better have nothing to do with you know, a prolonged thing with whatever hearing that's coming up. Assuming that's what you're talking about. I set and burn my option for how I could stand in that line to get in the courtroom. It's pretty clever. Pretty clever. I think it can only work for one day, though. I think after that, you know, I think you wouldn't be able to do that again. I hope care for my father is heartbreaking. I hope that chats can uplift you for a moment, even though a heavy topic. Yeah, Ruth Ann. You know, we should all, the good people we should always show support for, especially with our families. Greeno claims to be a bounty hunter, and it said that he has a warrant for him. He should surely be able to identify himself and march his own ass into jail. Well, he had plenty of legal troubles with his unlicensed bounty hunting stuff. His bounty hunting days are definitely over. I don't think that's something. Who knows? He might try to go back to it, but I think he's pretty much done with that. Sir, from this post and other videos of Greeno, do not let your guard down, sir. That'd be stupid to do in this case. It's not over yet, so Greeno's still suspect. He's not a suspect. The law enforcement's never called him a suspect. I'm not saying that it's impossible or he couldn't be, but like, you know, I think he's an asshole who just, you know, tries to inject himself in these things because he needs to be relevant. And when you inject yourself into something like that, people pay attention. You know, it's how you get views. So let me go to Fig's channel because I did want to read something that Fig wrote that I thought was actually very interesting. And I would like, if you haven't already seen this or read it, I would be very curious what you guys think. So give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen again. Stop sharing that. Share screen. Good old Fig solve. So let me read this. This is very interesting. Normal people don't murder two innocent girls. Alan's defense claims his confessions are just the result of harsh conditions and a mental breakdown from being held at the Westville Correctional Facility. But when you look at the details, it's simply not true. In fact, it only makes him look more guilty. Here is why the prison conditions made him crazy enough to confess is a dumb argument. Alan's mental state was troubling long before jail. Alan's disturbing behavior started well before his incarceration. He had a history of mental illness and violent acts. He has been reported of waving a gun in his wife's face, and there is a report about this domestic disturbance as well. Also, Rick acted guilty before he was even arrested. During an October 2022 search of his home, Alan told Indiana State Police, "Why bother? It's all over," hinting at a resignation and guilt long before he was even detained. He didn't need harsh prison conditions to feel the weight of his actions, and those signs were already there. He also made statements too, I believe in November, that were if it's too much for his wife, he'll go ahead and just tell them everything. So multiple confessions across facilities, not just a one-time breakdown. Alan confessed repeatedly, not only at Westville, but also at Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. These weren't one-off slips due to stress. They were consistent admissions across months and locations. He told his wife on April 3rd, 2023, "I did it. I killed Abby and Libby." On April 6th, he shouted to other inmates, "I'm not crazy. I'm only acting like I'm crazy," which doesn't sound like someone broken by conditions. It sounds like someone with a clear conscious admission of guilt. Also to note, it is not unusual to house pretrial inmates in prison facilities. The defense wants us to think Allen's placement in Westville was extreme, but using prison facilities for high-profile or at-risk pretrial detainees is common, especially when local jails don't have the capacity or security. Allen isn't the only one. Other inmates awaiting trial have been placed in similar facilities for their safety. Isolation and suicide watch were for his own protection. The defense complains about Allen's isolation and monitoring, but these were essential precautions. He was kept separate because other inmates reportedly threatened to kill him. He was also on suicide watch, meaning he needed close monitoring. The alternative, put him in general population, where he'd be attacked, or leave him unmonitored, risking self-harm. These measures weren't torture. They were for his safety and the facility's responsibility. So the defense wants to claim he's crazy. Then sure, only a true disturbed person would kill two innocent girls in the woods. But let's be clear, that doesn't make him innocent. It just makes him exactly the kind of person who would commit this horrific crime. I gotta tell you, well said by Fig. Well said. So I'm curious what you guys thought of that. But back to Greeno. I know, Steve, but putting him putting a phone in my face is what I cannot morally justify. I am working on a plan to attend this week. It's just a hard decision to make. Whatever decision you make, Mel, I support you. I hope the best on that. And I know that you will have the integrity not to do what other people did, other YouTubers, to play nice and take pictures and stuff, because I can also see him trying to manipulate Mel, let's squash this beef. Come on. I've changed. I care about Abby and Libby so much. You care about Abby and Libby so much. The past is the past. Can we at least just come on? Like unity. It's about unity. I believe he would do that too. And he might do what you just mentioned. I believe both things are possible, but either way, it would be a manipulation tactic to say, look, guys, I'm built whole again. Look at all these people I'm taking pictures with. They respect me. They like me. They're my peers. I'm one of them. See, go me. I think that's exactly what would happen. Oh, he's just looking for attention. Interesting what kind of man plants himself into two young kids just to get views and fame. I'll tell you what kind of sicko. I'll tell you what kind of sicko, sir. If you go, be careful. I think he is a dangerous person. However, there will be a lot of people around, and if he is inappropriate, there will be people around to help protect you. I wish so much I could be there. I do. All right. So I'll ask again before I go. Any thoughts of what I read from Fixall's YouTube community post? Because I thought it was really good, and I thought it was really well said. I think it explained some things really, really well. I'll tell you what, we're definitely not done with this trial. I am interested to see what the defense has up their sleeves that could, if anything, change the course of how we look at it, because they're going to need to. I agree. Fig is great, and I do, and I think it just show you that like everyone's acting like, oh, he's just this shy, small guy, just friendly as can be. And then, we realize that, you know, he did things to his sister and, of course, waving a gun in his wife's face and these domestic disturbances and these, this past of, you know, mental illness. And I don't understand. Like, look, so if you're mentally ill, you somehow are above doing horrible things. And I think he made a great point where it's like, the weight of things, he was already showing signs of guilt, whether saying like, look, it's all over, or saying like, if this gets to be too much for my wife, then I'll go ahead and I will confess. Now, I want you guys to think about that. It's like, oh, it would do my wife a lot of good for me to say that I was guilty. So they knew that she was married to a child killer, not just for my wife, but my daughter too. I'm sure that will go well. People knowing that her father was a child killer of two children. I'm going to do this for them. It makes zero sense. That would not work. All right, guys. So I'm going to end it here. I think this was a great live stream. To be honest, I think as far as solo live stream goes, not having a guest on, whether it be with Cold Truth or with Fig Solves or with Lisa O'Brien, I think this is the best solo live stream that I did. And I want to, honestly, your guys' participation with this made that possible. So, again, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Those who agree with me, those who do disagree with me, the people that I disagree with, you know, great conversations can be had, and I always welcome that. So, uh, what I might end up doing, I'm not sure yet, but to continue to have this go or to continue this going, maybe I'll do a live stream next weekend. I won't do anything during the week, I don't think. Um, and I could talk about the rest of everything that's going on because I'm interested in when the defense will rest. And then, of course, the closing arguments. And then, of course, when jury goes into deliberation. I'm curious to see if this is going to happen faster than we anticipated. And I think it might. because this thing was supposed to go on till April 15th. But of course, jury deliberations, depends how long they'll deliberate, and it also depends how much further the defense is going to go. And I think even the state's still trying to put things in admissions or try to admit things. I don't know. Thank you, Rick. Great live. Everyone, don't forget, give a thumbs up on your way out. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Johnny. And I don't want to forget anyone. Thank you, Fig, for coming on. Thank you, Captain Howdy, for making an appearance. Thank you, Lisa. Anna, thank you for coming on. Steve, thank you. Johnny, I don't know if I mentioned you, but thank you. There was someone else that I told to basically beat feet. But okay, Cindy, thank you. Dorothy, thank you so much. Even you, Daisy, I know you're not here anymore. Told you to beat feet, but thank you. And if I forgot anyone else, please know that was not intentional. But I am SP74. How can I forget you? Thank you so much. Like I said, if there's anyone else, it's not my intention to forget you. Uncle Bob, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Jill, thank you. I appreciate you. So yeah. Hell yeah. If you go live tonight, Cold Truth, I'll be following you. I'll watch that. I think all of us have missed the hell out of your lives and have missed it's just awesome to see you back. So thank you. Jill, thank you very much. I try to be. Great live burn after reading. Mods, ladies, gentlemen, be safe. Thank you guys. So anyways, this is Burn After Reading Live. I'm Rick Mullinax, and I'll catch your ass down the road. Bye-bye.